Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful for the chance to rise today in Parliament against the NDP and the opposition attempts to delay and defeat Bill C-38, the Jobs, Growth and Long-Term Prosperity Act. Today's act includes significant and critical measures that form Economic Action Plan 2012 to support Canada's economy and help fuel job creation, a budget that has been public and in debate since March, or for over 4 months. Since March, today's act has received numerous and record-breaking amounts of debate, including the longest amount of debate at second reading and the most amount of time for committee consideration in over 2 decades, when compared to other budget implementation bills. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, the Economic Action Plan 2012 is an extremely important document, and C-38 is equally as important, as it is vital to the continued strength of the Canadian economy. I would really hope that the NDP and opposition would be less concerned about partisan procedural games to delay and defeat Bill C-38. Instead, I call on them to join our Conservative government and focus on helping create jobs, economic growth, and long-term prosperity. That's what matters to Canadians and their families, and I'm happy to report we're getting real results to improve Canada's economy and job market. In fact, Mr. Speaker, Canada has the longest record of job growth in the entire G7 in recent years, with nearly 760,000 net new jobs created since July 2009, 90% full-time and more than 80% in the private sector. However, Mr. Speaker, we cannot be complacent, as the global economy remains extremely fragile and challenges remain, as we see in ongoing events in places like Greece and Spain. Such global challenges can ultimately impact Canada, as we are not immune. For that reason, we are committed to the rapid implementation of Economic Action Plan 2012. It is also why our Conservative government, like many people across this country, is deeply disappointed with the NDP and other opposition parties and the games they are playing to delay and defeat such key measures to support Canada's economy. I want to read from a recent Toronto Sun editorial to illustrate that point, and I will quote at length, as my colleague did earlier, quote, "As Europe stands poised on the brink of a disastrous economic wildfire that could blacken the world, the NDP leader's self-obsession is in full flame, vowing to delay the passing of Economic Action Plan 2012. By playing silly with amendments and procedure, this is nothing but grandstanding. This is a budget designed to create jobs and inspire economic growth, and it comes to the House of Commons at a moment that can only be described as the 11th hour of a global economic conflagration. Right now, there is only one enemy in our fight to protect Canada from the repercussion of Europe's burning, and it's the NDP leader. This is inarguable, and I completely agree," end of quote. By focusing on growth and job creation, the new measures in Economic Action Plan 2012 will also solidify, strengthen, and draw upon the role of entrepreneurs as the driving force behind Canada's economy. For example, the government is committed to ensuring that Canadians fully benefit from the economic opportunities associated with our natural resources while protecting the environment. We know that the existing system needs comprehensive reform. Today, Canadian businesses in the resource sector must navigate a maze of overlapping and complex regulatory requirements. This can discourage potential new investors and undermine the economic viability of major projects while providing no additional benefit to the environment. Mr. Speaker, this is wrong, which is why we have worked since 2006 to streamline and improve regulatory processes. However, more needs to be done. Economic Action Plan 2012 responds to this need by introducing system-wide legislative improvements to streamline the review process for major economic projects. We will reform the regulatory system so that reviews are conducted in a timely and transparent manner while safeguarding the environment. Today's bill includes a number of initiatives to meet this objective. For example, today's legislation will establish a new federal environmental assessment regime that will consolidate responsibility for assessments from over 40 departments and agencies to 3 responsible authorities: the Canadian Environmental Assessment Agency, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, and the National Energy Board. The legislation will also set timelines for environmental assessments and provide for greater cooperation between jurisdictions. For example, the bill amends the National Energy Board Act to establish time limits for regulatory reviews under the Act and enhances the powers of the Chair and the responsible Minister to ensure that those reviews are conducted in a timely manner. The government's position on the environment is very clear. We can achieve our economic priorities while continuing to protect the environment. For example, Economic Action Plan 2012 proposes $13.5 million over 2 years to the National Energy Board to increase the number of inspections of oil and gas pipelines from about 100 to 150 inspections per year, and double from 3 to 6 the number of annual comprehensive audits to identify issues before incidents occur. We must be vigilant, Mr. Speaker, in guarding our spectacular natural treasures, and we must preserve them so we can pass them down to future generations. That is why protecting Canada's environment and the health of Canadians will remain a key government priority. Other key measures in today's Act deal with the housing market, amendments to improve oversight of Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, or CMHC. Mr. Speaker, as we work towards getting our own government house in order, we continue to be mindful of other parts of the economy in need of careful stewardship. There is no doubt that housing has been top of mind for many Canadian families. And just as the government's management must be done with long-term objectives in mind, so too must the housing market be approached with a responsible, measured, and long-term view so that it remains strong and stable over time. In order to protect our housing market from excesses seen in other economies and to support the long-term stability of our housing market, our government has acted 3 times to adjust the rules for government-backed insured mortgages. These adjustments include requiring a minimum down payment of 5% for owner-occupied properties and 20% on speculative properties, reducing the maximum amortization period to 30 years from 35 years for mortgages with loan-to-value ratios of more than 80%, and lowering the maximum amount Canadians can borrow in refinancing a mortgage to 85% from 95% of the value of their homes. We also withdrew government insurance from backing home equity lines of credit. In short, we discouraged some Canadians from using their homes as automatic bank machines and encouraged them to use their homes as saving vehicles. Today's proposed legislation amendments are part of the government's continuous effort to strengthen the housing finance system. These amendments will strengthen the governance and oversight of CMHC and ensure that the corporation's commercial activities are managed in a manner that promotes the stability of the financial system. These enhancements include the additional objectives for CMHC to ensure its commercial activities, promote and contribute to the stability of financial system, including the housing market. Next, legislative and regulatory authorities for the Minister of Finance in respect to CMHC's securitization programs. Next, authorities for the Superintendent to review and monitor the safety and soundness of CMHC's commercial activities and report the CMHC Board of Directors and to the Ministers of Finance and HRSDC. And lastly, the addition of the Deputy Minister of Human Resources and Skill Development and the Deputy Minister of Finance to CMHC's Board of Directors as ex officio members. And we will continue to act when necessary to support the long-term stability of Canada's housing markets and encourage savings through home ownership. For all these reasons, I encourage Canadians and the opposition to support Bill C-38 and help us get this bill passed today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments?